Cold War was a stable order, but there were 130 conflicts during the period of Cold War in the places outside the two major superpowers. And with 91, unlike what we expected, or some of the more optimistic people expected, the peace dividend didn't happen. And that debris produced events like September 11th and the subsequent issues. So the problem that we've taken is saying, A, this is not new. Because if you look into the world of 1945, I mean, the reports of the period regarding Europe terrified everybody in the State Department or in the Defense Department. You know, there was literally massive starvation and the threat of total collapse. Democracy and the market and freedom succeeded against all odds at winning, because bidding people wouldn't have bid on them. So now the issue becomes, what succeeded for half of the world? How can it become whole? How can we make the world whole? And one very important component of this is that state effectiveness is going to be key to global security. And because of that, I think the definition of security has changed, and the nature of cooperation for bringing that security requires completely novel ways of thinking and acting. And this is going to require actors who previously might have not spoken to each other or cooperated or worked in silos to really come together, because our collective well-being depends on it.
Lynn, does this strike you as something that you heard and you've been talking about from C.K. Prahlad and his work? Is there a relationship, a linkage between the fortunate and the bottom of the pyramid, economic means of incorporating people who are outside?
And I think the thing I find so attractive about C.K. Prahlad's work is it brings market forces to bear on the issue of development rather than having people remain dependent on aid organizations. It shows how you can harness their own energies and their own aspirations. But it's also very interesting in some of the cases where, by setting up local self-help groups and managing from the bottom, the amount of sort of high-level overhead some of the banks need to manage some of these self-help groups is really quite small, because you're putting the energies and the local knowledge to bear. And I think what we've heard today in the humanitarian assistance or stabilization, local knowledge and finding those local partners is absolutely crucial.
Does the framework account for all this? Or is this just a small part of the framework?
It's very much at the heart of it. We've been working during and subsequently to the intense period of engagement in Afghanistan on trying to codify the successes and failures of that operation and working in other countries, a framework that looks at what are the core functions that a state, a government must provide to its citizens, but also how communities, citizens can self-organize. How can the state set the enabling environment for the market and civil society to allow citizens to trust in their government but organize their own prosperity. So this is very much what we're struggling with. We've learned a lot from Mr. Prowler's work, and most recently we're working with Fernando de Soto, etc. How is it that the citizens who desperately want to be part of the global system, and that's the key lesson I take from my time in Afghanistan, that pretty much every Afghan I met across the country says, how can we join the global system? So from the perspective now sitting in the States, how can we make those institutions of the market and the state function to ensure their participation?